When you are doing something, before you think about what you're going to get, you have to think about what you're going to give. When you started to do something, you want to make sure these things will go to a certain height. You can't just balance principles. Principles is principle. So if you need to choose between you're doing the right thing versus you are doing something that will give you some money, but on the other hand, it's not like really the right thing you are doing for the society. There's absolutely no choice to make. You have to make the right one, doing the right thing for the society. I want to do something that really help a lot of people. I want to do something that leaves a legacy.
Meet the man behind Hong Kong's octopus card, e-channel reforms in China, and cross-border regional BPO's cooperation in Asia. A visionary leader with over 30 years of experience managing businesses across North America, Australia, Asia, and Europe.
I really think the people who's very digitally or financially savvy are very different from the people who are not. And then in this world, I think this polarity is increasing. In my view, financial and digital inclusion is something that's very important because it helps a lot of people to participate in the financial cycle, as well as help a lot of people to prevent themselves from frauds, online frauds, and telecom frauds and so on. But we really need to help people to cross this digital divide and financial divide. And that would be one lesson that I really say I learned from the last few years. And then if I have chance to redo it again, I would say the first thing is really think outside of the box as well, work with more people in the whole ecosystem. And then even competitors, they are your friends.
For decades, Jackal Ma has been advocating the use of technology to achieve social impact. Hi Jackal.
Hi Elaine.
How are you?
Pretty good.
What have you been up to?
Wow, basically trying to go around to different countries, different continents, visiting a lot of people.
What kind of people? What countries? Tell me more.
Well, I've met quite a bit of people from different credit bureaus. This is something that we are expanding into. Also seeing quite a bit of central bankers, a lot of regulators, because for what we want to do, we need to talk to a lot of people who is responsible for these regulations, and I need to talk to a lot of them. Besides that, I also talk to companies that provide financial infrastructures. I need their partnership to help fulfilling our dream. We have a lot of very good technologies, so we want these people to help us to put these technologies into reality. And I think that's what we do.
So meeting credit bureaus, regulators, central banks, and all these different, they're all in the financial kind of sector, right? What have you discovered? What are they up to? How are they contributing to this mission of yours of digital and financial inclusion?
I think I have published an article about the digital divide before. I really think the people who's very digitally or financially savvy are very different from the people who are not. And then in this world, I think this polarity is increasing. So it is our mission really to try to solve this problem. And as I go around talking to all these people, I think I'm surprised a lot of people feel what I feel. They say that, hey, Jackal, this is a great vision. So how can we work together to solve this? So I'm pretty impressed by a lot of government officials that I've met. I think they are very, very well aware of the situation, and their willingness to collaborate with people like us with the technology and a lot of other people in the industry. They are very happy to collaborate, and they want to solve the problem together with us as well. So I'm actually pretty happy to see all these responses from the industry to say that, hey, you guys are doing right on your digital and financial inclusion dream. So I think I'm quite happy lately seeing all these people. Now, as I have more responses from these people, I need to put more of these into actions, expanding our team to help more countries. So that's why I say, hey, Africa, Asia, Latin America, Europe, we need to go to a lot of other places.
That's great. So I can definitely see like a lot of like different parties of entities come together with the same goal. So how do all of these different entities play a different role to kind of like contribute to this financial inclusion? Maybe a little bit more concrete of an example of like why are these different entities are important and how do they come together to achieve it?
Actually, a lot of countries, a lot of governments talk about financial inclusion. I think there's a lot of industry practitioners who talk about that as well. So in the past, we are talking about the awareness of, yeah, we have to do financial inclusion. But right now, everybody's at the next stage. They're saying, hey, like, how can we go deeper? How can we do more? Which market segment we should be focusing on? And because of that, we need to talk to, for example, micro SME is an area that a lot of governments want to help. And then financial inclusion for micro SME means we need a lot of data. Some of these data are from government. So we need to work with the government people. We need to provide, because of jurisdiction problems, a lot of these services in a country where data cannot travel outside of the country. So I need people with the financial infrastructure to help implementing this solution within a jurisdiction. So all this needs multiple interaction between different type of entities, the legal interactions, the government interaction, regulators who put up all the legal frameworks, as well as people like us who had the technology and the experience. So I think like there's a lot of things in play right now.
So you spoke about divide, right? Of having, of seeing like the digital divide in the population in the country. I also see there's a divide between the old finance and the new finance. So like the conventional banking and also fintech. What is your view on that, and how do you think the future would be like, or like how are we merging together? What is the scene like?
Actually, this is a very interesting question. I think in some of the economies that we went to, this is a huge problem, and they've experienced a lot of disconnect when the two sides, the traditional finance and then the more new non-bank finance, are trying to be become one, but they couldn't because the legislations are different. They don't understand what market segments they are focusing on. They all think that the other side is better or the other side is not as good as themselves. So there's a lot of competition. But the regulators need to really put all this in place and say that, hey, we want the new finance to work more on the consumer side. We want the traditional banks to help on some of the financial inclusions on the rural area because we need a lot of, for example, rural banks interaction and so on. So I think all these is showing us that the new financial cycle versus the traditional financial cycle is quite different across the different countries. What I see is as regulators getting better and better, they slowly need tools. For example, how they're controlling interest rates and a lot of other things to make this two circle interact with others and also without introducing a lot of systematic risk in the whole country. So we go around the world and we find out that gradually there are more and more regulators around know that they cannot just let the industry go by themselves without really regulating them. So I think that's very interesting.
Okay, that's cool. So coming back, I think I like that you have already painted a really good picture of the entire landscape. So then about TrustDecision, where are we in this mission? And so first is from a high level perspective, how are we helping to achieve this? And also where are we right now?
Well, when we first started the company, we tell ourselves we want to help solving this inclusion problem, like the financial inclusion and digital inclusions that we talk about. And we set off saying that, hey, with technologies, we can do a lot. And I would say in the last few years, we have achieved a lot. We've helped a lot of people in a lot of countries, in particular, a lot of emerging markets. How do they evaluate people who doesn't have good credit history before? I think we have done a lot in that area. And we're pretty proud about that. We participate in some of these surveys saying, hey, how much impact you have made to certain countries. For example, what we've done to some of these emerging markets like Indonesia and so on. And then the results are pretty encouraging. I think we have impact a lot of people's life, and I'm pretty proud of it. And up to today, I think also we have seen a lot of governments and a lot of countries working seriously on stopping online fraud as well as telecom fraud. It's in particular a huge problem in Asia, for example. And we actually use our technology to help solving a lot of these problems. So that's very, very encouraging. I think that's from what we have done perspective and what scale we have done it. We now operate in more than 10 countries, with staffs in over 10 countries. We also serve end users in more than 150 countries. So we really have grown ourselves into this global company that help a lot of people around the world solving the problems that they have in how do they get digitally included, financially included. So pretty proud of what we have done so far.
That's good. If you're proud, then I will be proud too.
Wow, I'm glad.
Because I'm already in this with you together, so I will be proud as well, right? So I'm glad to hear that you're saying this, so it's amazing. Speaking of fraud, literally my dad just texted me just now that he was asking me, are you in KL? I was like, what an odd question. I was like, yeah, of course I'm in KL. Why? He said, someone just called me, pretended to be a police officer and say your daughter is in trouble. I'm like, what? It is a serious issue that is impacting. It's not just something that we see on the news. It is day to day, as close as your family members. And he told me that he was just speaking to his friends, and 3 of his friends had the same call. I'm like, this is getting way out of hands, right? It's increasing, especially with these days where digital is so easily accessible. If we can get access to it, the fraudsters can get access to it as well, right?
Yes.
All these things. So I don't know. Do you have any personal experience of this kind of closely scammed or fraud?
Oh yeah.
You do?
I have people pretending that they are police, sending me a warrant saying that I'm being wanted for the whole countries, and I just look at it and say, oh, I try to play around with them, right? I know that these are fraudsters. I want to see how far they go and so on. But it's very interesting, especially these days with generative AI. People can really have voice very close to your relative's voice. They can even change the face and do a lot of weird things. I think the problem is some weaker communities, such as the elderly people and so on, they are so much impacted by that. A lot of people that we know lost their lifetime saving to fraudsters. That's their retirement savings and so on. So I think that's pretty poor. So what we have done so far in a lot of countries using our technology to help these people, I think I'm glad, but I also think in collaboration with a lot of other entities, I want to do better. I think it's not a one company, one technology's effort. We, as a society, we need to help these people together.
Speaking of fraud, right? Fraud and technology, we have been fighting fraud for many years, right? Question, do you think fraud will ever end?
No, I think it's just an ongoing battle. The fraudsters will always find new ways, and you just need to find new ways to prevent it. I think it will get better over time. I really do, because all the technologies are making the cost of committing fraud a lot higher. And then all the transactions right now are become a lot more fragmented. So the amounts on these transactions are getting smaller. So the fraudsters need to turn into very specific area to find where I can commit these frauds. So with technologies and so on, I think I'm hopeful that we can, not eliminate, but really reduce a lot of these frauds.
I think it's a continuous effort to always outsmart them.
That's right.
Because it will always be there. We just need to be smarter than them.
That's right.
Playing a chess game.
Exactly.
So then, do you see a particular pattern or anything interesting or like out of the norm in like different countries? Because we have been around, right? You have been around talking to regulators and all this. From that perspective, do you see any country has like a particular different pattern of fraud or whatnot, or is it a universal thing?
Well, fraud actually, how they commit these frauds, the mechanisms are pretty universal, but the fine details are pretty local. However, we find out that like, rather than focusing on the fraud itself, we can focus on the fraudsters and the fraud gangs. These fraudsters and fraud gangs, they actually move around. And then we've seen from time to time, for example, previously, we've seen Indonesia having very bad fraud like on the credit system. And then we've seen very similar fraudsters moving around from Indonesia to Philippines, to Mexico. And like we kind of identify very likely they're the same bunch of fraudsters. They're trying different things in different countries. So I think with our analytical capability, what we're just trying to say is rather than focusing on the fraud itself, focusing on who's behind, it will get us like a lot higher chance in terms of catching them, and then it will again increase the cost of committing fraud.
Let's talk about something else for a while. I know you are the kind of person that has a lot of hobbies and passion. Is there anything that you are learning or you have been passionate about lately?
Yeah, well, this is very interesting. I'm still deciding whether to go skydiving or not. So that's something that I want to try. And then I said, oh, should I not, and so on. So
Why
I'm
are you
still.
contemplating?
I don't know. I just feel that you should always break your own limits, right?
Yeah,
You to
do
find
it.
it and so on. So, yeah. But like, I also like say that hey, like, have I passed the right age to do that, and so on. So I don't know.
I don't know. Like of all things, with you, I think age is not the limit. I don't think you are the kind of person that let age limit you. No, I think you should do it. Try at least once. Right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love diving. I love diving.
Okay.
I did diving quite a bit. I miss it, and I think you should do it. I feel like you will really
I
like
mean
it.
skydiving.
Oh, you mean skydiving, not like sea diving? Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, then I will not comment. That is a lot. Whoa. Actually, is there like a criteria like when it comes to like health condition or whatnot for like skydiving?
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh my gosh.
I just like in the last few months I'm like debating within myself whether I should go skydiving or not. So
Where would you go if you were to really do it?
just go UAE because I
UAE?
always go UAE, right? So a lot of my friends go UAE to do
Can you let me
skydiving.
know when you actually do it?
Okay. Yeah, that's part of the company commercial. I will wear TrustDecision, right?
So yeah, speaking of like hobbies and passion, I know you have a lot, right? You spoke about that. You like a lot of things. But like when we talk about like anything and everything, every time I meet you, we have so much conversation, right? We love talking about all kinds of different things. But when it comes to like financial and digital inclusion, you're always like so passionate about it, right? For many years. Um, what got you? What made you so persistent with this?
Wow. I think that's going to be a pretty long story. I think I'm persistent about anything that I feel that's right. And in my whole career, I think I have done a lot of very interesting things that change everybody's life. And for example, like in the 80s, oh, okay, that revealed my age. I like participate and create projects that really reduce the use of paper. Because in the past, there's a lot of checks around, and then like we started to have check imaging projects that you don't need to move the checks around anymore. And then later on, I participated in a project that like I'm famous for, which is a project that reduces cons. It's a digital RFID purse that we have in Hong Kong called Octopus. So that project really like is very meaningful for me. And then on, I started to do more things around digital channels for bank, reducing queues, and then create jobs and a lot of things around these. And then I can tell you one thing, it's really addictive at times, that you see yourself doing something right for the society, and then you see the huge feedback from the whole society about, wow, we're glad that we have something like this. And then you have affected so many people's life. So that becomes something very central in everything that I do. I want to do something that really help a lot of people. And like, well, in my own terms, I would say I want to do something that leave a legacy. Well, sometimes when you maybe at the end of your career, you started to go back to a lot of family life. When you talk to your grandkids and your great-grandkids and so on, I want to make sure they will say, wow, I'm so proud of my granddad, my great-granddad. And like, see what he has done to the society, see how many people he has helped. That's in my career, but that's also in my other things such as my charity life that I participate and so on. So I think that is a very important part of what I want to do. And then when you started to do something, you want to make sure these things will go to a certain height, okay, and then other people can continue to do that. And in my view, financial and digital inclusion is something that's very important because it helps a lot of people to participate in the financial cycle, as well as help a lot of people to prevent themselves from frauds, online frauds, and like telecom frauds and so on. But like this particular area that I'm participating in, I think it's still very early in the game. We've helped a lot of people, of course. I think we're proud of what we've done so far. But in the whole scheme of things for the whole world, I think there's a lot of countries that need that. There's a lot more people in different populations that really need our help in that. So that's why in the last 10, 15 years, everybody in the company has been hearing over and over again, like Jackal talking about financial inclusion, digital inclusion, because I think we talked about the digital divide before. We really need to help people to cross this digital divide and financial divide. We talk about the financial literacy game, the digital literacy game. We really need to help people to be able to participate rather than being excluded from these cycles. So I think that's really a passion that I think I can still continue to affect a lot of people. So I don't think it's something that I can pass along very easily to other people to continue. So I'll continue this passion together with the company. Of course, I have other things that I want to drive as well, but this one is very close to my heart as well. I think one thing about financial and digital inclusion is about equality. It's about inclusiveness. And I think right now we are at a very interesting time in history where equality, where humanity is being heavily challenged because of what's happening globally. So I think with technology, we can actually help bridging these gaps and make the world a better one, a more equal one.
Absolutely. Wow, so moved. So I hear one thing in common, right? When you're talking about like your entrepreneurship and your journey and everything, it always starts with solving a problem. And I think that is what all entrepreneurs do when they start a business, because they see a problem and then they try to solve it. And that's how innovation happens as well. But there's also another side of the story where we often see a lot of entrepreneurs. They start off with like, solving a problem. They have a lot of such big mission, right? They have a vision that how they want to change the world, and it's always started from good, for good. Not to say that they don't now, but as you are running your business, a lot of things comes into your priority as well, right? You're running a business, right? You're not doing charity. You need to earn money. You need to be profitable. You need to answer to your board, your other co-founders, your team. Right now, you have so many people under you, right? You are responsible for that. So a lot of times I see entrepreneurs get sucked into, business, and then they kind of like get carried away. They forget about why they started it at the first place. I feel like a lot of people are like being cornered by business as well. Um, what is maybe a tip, right? What is your tip of like standing so strong with your principle? And have you had any part of your life that where you like kind of like lose it, and how do you get back in track?
Actually, this is a very interesting question. I haven't told a lot of people about this. This one actually is my fifth startup. So I start up a lot of different companies in different countries and so on before, and there are success and there are failures. I would say some of the failures that I have or not so success, I wouldn't call those total failure, but I would say it's really because I didn't set my mind on what I'm doing for the society. I think, for example, one of the very early startup company that I have is a telemarketing company that I think, okay, we're going to have this much volume, we're going to have this margin, and then we're going to be in very good shape from a business perspective. But I didn't really understand what I'm doing for the society. I'm just thinking the society will give me all these returns when I do all that. But I don't think that's the right thing. So that's why that company didn't go very far. It gave me a lot of rethinking about what I should be doing in terms of, in the long run, benefiting the society. So when sometimes as a startup entrepreneur, you always have doubt on, okay, how do I keep this company going? I would say you can't just balance principles. Principles is principles. So if you need to choose between you're doing the right thing versus you are doing something that will give you some money, but on the other hand, it's not like really the right thing you are doing for the society, there's absolutely no choice to make. You have to make the right one, doing the right thing for the society. So I think this is my principle so far, and I want to keep on doing this and then tell everybody else that this is what they should be doing.
That's very powerful, right? I think starting from the society, because like that's where we live in, right? When you do good for the society, then you should see return in the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Then coming back to TrustDecision, how did that idea came about at the first place? What inspired you? What got you to start this company?
Well, as a matter of fact, when we first start this company, it's at a stage where we see an explosion towards, okay, we see a lot more data. Because businesses are being transacted in a more fragmented way, every transactions that people get into have multiple companies getting into it. Behaviors are really everywhere that you can really start analyzing more and so on. So with all this analysis, all this data, we're thinking what we can do for the society with this data and knowledge. And luckily, I think our team have a lot of experience in fraud and then in like credit. All these become very central to why we want to do this. We want to use the knowledge around credit as well as fraud to help the whole society. So how do we help the weaker communities to avoid being like, losing their whole lifetime saving to like fraudsters? A lot of elderly people actually, like in the past, have that problem as well. How do we use knowledge to help evaluating people who didn't participate in financial cycles before and get financially included? So that is really what we think about, and then with that, we put it in practice, and it becomes a very main theme of what we do as a company. How do we get people digitally and financially included with technology, with knowledge, and with data?
What about failures? Throughout all these years, what is the most painful and challenging lesson that you have learned when you are building this company?
Well, that's a very good question. I've been keep on thinking about this because I think one thing, you really need to review what you've done right and wrong to make sure like you are like continuing on the right path. So at the very early stage, actually, our company started with a few techie co-founders. And we think that with technology, we can change everything. However, as we move along, we find out that sometimes it's not only the technology. You can't work by yourself. You really need to focus on, okay, who else do I need to pull into the whole cycle to make this dream a reality? You need to collaborate with a much larger ecosystem in play. You need to collaborate early on with governments, with regulators. You need to work with other players in the technology fields, other people such as the associations around and so on, and a lot more. So the whole ecosystem is just expanding, and then I would say, need to work with a lot more of these people early in the game. I think we didn't notice that because as techies, you always feel that, wow, I'm very good technically and I can do all this and I can conquer the world. But on the other hand, it's not only the technology. You have to start working with a lot more people. So that's really what we are focusing ourselves on. And that would be one lesson that I really say I learned from the last few years. And then if I have chance to redo it again, I would say the first thing is really think outside of the box as well, work with more people in the whole ecosystem. And then even competitors, they are your friends. So how do you work in the whole ecosystems? I think that's the lesson that I've learned.
All right, Jackal, I think we have come to an end of our podcast, but there are still a few questions that I want to ask you to end this session.
Okay.
So I will ask you 5 questions. You have to answer it really quickly.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. Are you morning or night owl?
Morning.
Rice or noodle?
Rice.
City or nature?
City.
One book that has changed your life?
Who moved your cheese?
Who moved your cheese? Apart from your phone, what's that one thing that you always carry around?
Nothing actually.
Just a phone. That's all we need, technology. Okay, cool. 2 more last questions. To the audience that is watching this or hearing this, what's one advice that you give to an aspiring leader or any entrepreneurs out there?
I actually go around teaching and also advising a lot of startup companies, helping incubation programs around and so on. This one I always tell them. And I think we talk about that as part of the program as well. Really, when you are doing something, before you think about what you're going to get, you have to think about what you're going to give. I think this is very centered around what we have talked about, and I strongly believe it. And I think it will get you a lot further in your aspirations. So this is what's my advice to everybody.
Give first, then take.
Yeah.
Nice. Secondly, so this is our first podcast, but of course we will have a next one, and we want to continue to look for people that talks about digital and financial inclusion with different perspective, right? So coming from a technology provider or solution provider perspective, which is you, we also want to speak to other people like maybe regulators, central bank, any kind of different parties within the industry that can give different perspective and different contribution to the same goal, digital and financial inclusion. Who is that one person that you would recommend to be in our next podcast and why?
I would recommend Mickey Lee, who is an entrepreneur working on a lot of financial inclusion programs across multiple countries. I think he's a very interesting person when I look at what he has done for these countries and so on. And beside that, I would say we should work with regulators and central bankers. I know a few of them that's very, very interesting, and their view on how they want financial inclusion to really happen, and their view on how it should be more rural, micro SME based, individual based, and so on, is really coincide with what I always wanted. So I think some of these people I can introduce, and we can try to get them onto our podcast together.
Yes, that is what I want to hear. Thank you, Jackal. Yes, that is all for today. Thank you so much for coming in and get on board with our first podcast. And welcome back to our office in KL again. Thank you, Jackal.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. that is all for the first episode. Thanks for staying until the end. I hope you gained something, because that is why we started the podcast at the first place. We want to bring in people with different perspectives to see how we can achieve digital and financial inclusion together. What is your perspective? Comment below and let me know.